Your ultimatum runs out when we arrive. Admiral Mara Vance stood beneath a low halo of bridge LEDs while the ultimatum authority timer burned 9 digits into the air, 001457. The convoy beyond the blockade hung in a wide string of dim civilian hulls, cold-soaked. Drives caged to the last watt. Children and medical pallets stacked against airtight bulkheads. The authority's courier drone repeated the doctrine in the flat legal tone of a metronome: surrender all biometric registers, and half the food mass or the convoy would be jettisoned toward the star. Kestrel. The fleet mind braided through Mara's ships, bled an even whisper into her ear. They will execute at 0. Admiral. Their history indicates 91% compliance with their own threats. The deck hummed at a sympathetic frequency, the keel transmitting a light vibration from the reactor loop, and the taste of ozone rode the conditioned air like something raw. "Show me their firing arcs," Mara said. "Layer them by heat load." "Layered," said Lieutenant Sarah Davila at Tactical. Eyes white-blue with reflected screens. 4 frigates with flak nets. 2 cruisers with converging grav hooks. And a corvette tender acting smug. Her voice had edges. Her console's coolant fan spun up, adding a faint hiss to the bridge's soundscape. Convoy Mara asked. 73 hulls, said Commander Joel Rhee. Her XO, 3 hospital barges, 1 school transport declared non-essential by the authority. They have 6 tugs. If the authority snaps a noose, those tugs won't break it. The courier drone's transmission ticked another second away. 001421. Broadcast humane corridors. Mara said. Kestrel. Show them the math. The convoy passes. We stand between force and unarmed people. We will record everything, formatting the option set. Kestrel said. Probability of uptake by the authority 8% if pride is a variable, 1% if doctrine is. Your deadline doesn't own our moral clock. The authority's reply arrived with mechanical precision. Refused. Your offer denotes weakness. Comply with seizure or accept jettison sequence. Mara lifted her chin a fraction. We'll teach first. Then, she said softly. The railing beneath her palm carried the heartbeat of the flagship, a steady thrumming she'd trusted for years. Sarah, plot a ghost lane through their nets. Saito, Chief Saito, electronic warfare, ran a hand along the edge of his console like a violinist testing a string. I'll dress our drones as overconfident freighters. Noise on their lateral bands, silk on their range gates. We'll paint 1 corridor so clean it stinks of trap. Ensign Ofatam at helm cleared their throat. Small, precise. Ma'am, I can drag a mirror lattice through that gap if you give me 50 extra meters off the hospital barges. Make it 40, Mara said. We run close enough to smell their coolant. Joel, keep me on the timer. Zysur is 01310, Joel said. Authority rules call that warning bracket gamma. Civilians first, Mara said. Before the first set of drones left their bays, the crew net opened to a civilian channel for exactly 12 lines, as ordered by fleet doctrine in sight of a countdown. A medtech aboard the Bright Mercy spoke while strapping a child into a crash couch. I'm tightening your belt, sweetheart. It itches. I know. It's better to itch than to bounce. Will we see the blue ship again? The blue one is the hospital barge. We'll stay hidden behind it. Is the bad voice going away? Voices are only loud when no one answers back. Mom says close your eyes when the lights flicker. You can open them. There will be stars. What if the stars move? Then our friends are here. We broadcast options before we brandish fire. The first decoy cluster slid out of their bays with the neat glide of well-rehearsed motion, hulls barely warm enough to be noticed. Saito's hand moved, and the decoy's transponders took on the slightly arrogant cadence of smugglers who never thought a net would cinch tight. "Let them admire the swagger," Saito said, the corner of his mouth twitching. The bridge lights seemed to blink in time with the decoy's telemetry, and, somewhere deep, a pump kicked in with a low thud, marking the fleet's blood flow. The Authority's frigates shifted, flak nets brightening like crude constellations. "They'll needle the small ones," Sarah murmured. "See how they love the obvious kill. They're used to compliance," Joel said. "It has softened their hands." Mara looked at the mirrored lattice tucked behind Opha's plotted line. Not literal mirrors, angled EM skins, conductive panels tuned to flip interrogations back, to make an open road look occluded and a blocked path shine clear. She could smell the metallic tang of heated circuitry as a panel ramped up to readiness. Kestrel, she asked, "Our odds?" 49% to pass the convoy through without damage if the Authority captain remains doctrinaire. 61 if pride overrides curiosity. "Which is more likely?" Mara asked. "Pride," Kestrel said. "He is broadcasting quotations from their handbook to his crew. That correlates with inflexibility. Civilians are not chips on your table." "Authority command ship hailing," Sarah said. "Text only. Because cowards hide their eyes." "Read it," Mara said. "Submit biometric registries for every hull. For non-compliant ships, air filtration will be reduced for efficient compliance inducement." "Record that language," Mara said. Voice level. At the back of her throat, she tasted the dryness of recycled air too long unrefreshed. "Kestrel, open a public channel to the convoy and the Authority." One sentence. "Ready," Kestrel said. Mara faced the lens, no theatrics, no rage. "We don't bargain with chokeholds," she said, and cut the line. "Go." The flagship slid into motion so smoothly the bridge crew only felt it as a soft pressure on their knees and a new undertone in the deck's vibration. Opha drove the bow along the plotted razor, and the mirror lattice unscrolled like a cold banner, plates shifting in controlled micro-angles to throw the Authority's sensors a perfect lie. Saito's ghost freighters strutted down the noisier lane, impossible not to pursue. The Authority took the bait. Of course. Their nets surged to enfold the false bravado, while the true corridor, narrow and clean, opened in the shadow of their own hulls. Mara heard the whisper rattle of coolant as it chased heat through the lattice's veins. The smell ticked sharper. The air tasted faintly of pennies. "We cut no throats. We cut through lies." "Hospital barges moving," Joel said. Tugs 1 through 4 hit their marks. Tug 5 is limping. Engineering reports a heat blister on their port coil. "Flag it," Mara said. "We'll get them an escort." Firing. "Authority cruiser," Sarah snapped. "Not at us at the decoys. They're spraying flak on the swagger. They'll overheat their nets at that rate," Kestrel observed. "Their captain is performance signaling to his doctrine auditors." "Forward dorsal," Mara said. "Grazing along their flank." "Opha, crank our skin flare thermals down 1 notch. I don't want to wake their captain's curiosity." "Noted," Opha said. Sweat stood on their hairline, catching the light. 40 meters off the barge in 3, 2. The convoy slid, starlight flaring on paint scuffed by long months at sea. The bridge's air warmed with the effort of holding the lattice's angles precisely as the Authority's pings hammered at it. Seeking purchase. Saito's drones laughed, if drone behavior could be said to laugh, flaunting their pretended ignorance, daring the net closer until metal scraped metal in a show of theater no one could afford in peacetime. Heat spike on our panel 14, Sierra said. It's taking the brunt of their impatience. Rotate, Mara said. Slowly. If you snap the angle, they'll see the glitter. Panel 14 swaps with 21. Saito murmured, fingers a blur. The coolant hiss rose, then eased. 14's crew just earned hazard pay. Decoys are honest when lives are at stake. A near thing arrived with no time to advertise itself. The authority tender veered, slid into the supposedly sealed gap, nose hot with suspicion. They're sniffing, Joel warned. Their captain's pride is getting panels burned. Permission to pluck, Sarah said. Non-lethal only, Mara said. We are not here to light funerals. Saito's rig answered with a needle so fine it barely existed a whisper at the tender's inertial frame. A jitter applied to their own rangefinder returns so that their view of space stuttered a fraction off true. Your eyes are drunk, Saito breathed, not to anyone in particular. The tender hesitated. Ofa took the gap by a hair's width and slid the convoy past the tender's armpit for 7 blessed seconds. The hulls sang with proximity. Mara felt it in her bones. A chapel organ's low pedal. 2 more hospital barges through, Joel said. Tug 5 clipped the corridor wall. Port coil is cracked. They'll limp on internal thrusters only. Cost recorded, Kestrel said. Loss of maneuver for Tug 5. Time costs 10 minutes if we carry them. We carry them, Mara said, simple as gravity. Mark your timer. 0832, Joel said. The authority will escalate to demonstration at 5. We will not outspeed conscience. The authority decided to prove its threat had teeth by nicking the skin of something it thought unimportant. A flak spray kissed the hull of a grain freighter at the convoy's tail, carving 3 grooves the length of a man's hand. Nothing structural, just a maker's mark of malice. The freighter's captain transmitted a single line through chattering teeth. Still with you. Mara nodded once and let that line carve itself into her memory. Sarah, set a trap of their shape. Kestrel, give me a line. The authority values predictability because they call it order. Kestrel said, if we make a move that mimics their order, they will walk into it. Then build me their reflection, Mara said. The mirror lattice flexed. This time, instead of hiding a corridor, Ofa drew a frame around an absence, a vanishing lane whose edges looked loud. A siren for the doctrinaire. Saito seeded the edges with the same statistical stutters the authority used when goading compliance. Serve them their own sauce, he murmured. His console threw a faint warmth against his wrist. The cooling fans pitched up and a thin whistle threaded the bridge. If you gamble with families, you lose face. The authority's captain lunged. His corvette dashed toward the vanishing lane, flak net spitting. He broadcast a quotation about order and survival that had probably won him applause in a hall of mirrors. He's in, Sarah said. His forward arc is fixed. Now, Mara didn't raise her voice. Pin his options. Don't pierce his hull. Saito bloomed a sphere of micro-debris plastic chips with capacitive skins just beyond the Corvette's nose. To the Corvette's sensors, it looked like a sudden fog of soft targets. Their nets flared to swat them. The racks overheated, and for 3 seconds their reactor limited output to avoid self-damage. 3 seconds was a city if you knew how to live inside it. Ofa slid the convoy's slowest through. The mirror lattice glistening with falsehood, and the real human cargo shadowed in safety. A flare rippled across panel 19. A junior tech down there caught a hand on a hot edge and burned 3 fingers, swearing into the local net. Kestrel recorded the curse with the same even gravity it gave to doctrine and diplomacy. Cost 1 injury. Treated on site. Pain lives for a week. Benefit 1 hospital barge clear. Math without mercy is a poor weapon. They were almost done threading when Doctrine fouled Curiosity's gears and spun up something heavier. Authority cruiser charging grav hooks. Sarah said, every syllable clipped. They intend to snare the tail and drag it back through us. Counter Joel asked, eat the hook and break the line, Sarah said. Or make them eat their own hook. We do not chew barbs, Mara said. We set a table. She let Kestrel draw a schematic in her left eye, a whisper light overlay showing vectors like strokes of chalk across the dark. The grav hooks made tunnels in space when they cast, rigid, narrow, and arrogant. If you angled a mirror properly, you could make a tunnel think it bit its prey while its force ran home to its sender. The hull's hum deepened, the sensation of acceleration returning at the edges of her knees as Opha preloaded a slant. On my mark, Mara said. 2, 1. Now. The cruiser spat its hook. Saito flashed a polished panel into place, hardly larger than a door on a city street, but at the right angle to make the hooks pull loop and whisper back toward the cruiser's own braces. For a breath, the Authority's belly went slack. Their ship groaned audibly on shared channels as structure complained. Non-lethal, Mara reminded. We are tutoring, not torturing. Loop eased. Saito said, sweat running behind his ear. He blew out air that trembled. They felt that. Pride will demand another swing. Your corridor invites its maker inside. Timer, Joel said. VCU 511. Demonstration incoming at 5. Kestrel echoed. They like to dramatize with precision. On cue, the courier drone pinged. Demonstration reducing oxygen to non-essential hulls by 2% for 30 seconds. Record, Mara said, a cold ring in her voice. She heard her own pulse in her ears, counted it, and made the count useful. How many made it through? 62 hulls clear, Sarah said. 11 remain. Tug 5 still limping. School transport at the rear. They painted it as non-essential on their ledger. The monsters. Bring the school into our shadow, Mara said. The air smelled briefly of burnt dust as a relay engaged beside the helm. We'll spend heat if we must. Heat budget will tighten by 20%. Kestrel warned. We can carry it. Carry it, Mara said. Our quietest signal speaks loudest tonight. The school transport's windows were filled by children's eyes, even with polarized filters. Mara imagined she could feel their gaze like warmth. She didn't look away. Saito, she said, voice lower. Sing them a lullaby. He did, in the only way he knew, by softening every violent frequency near the school's hull, by shaping the background hiss of sensors into something like rain on a roof. The transport's captain sent nothing but a thumb pressed to the glass. A gesture captured by a hull cam that Kestrel filed in a folder, marked with a word Mara didn't need to read to understand. The Authority fired the grav hooks again. The hook's throat bent toward the school, a throat like a wolf's. Sarah threw a calculated hiss into the cruiser's own lateral bands, making their picture jump a fraction of a degree. The hook missed the shadow by a child's breath and bit empty space. Pressure is not permission. The convoy's final third began to move with the jittery rhythm of people who had been told for hours to be still and suddenly couldn't bear stillness. Keep them steady, Joel said softly on the convoy channel. his voice like a hand on a shoulder. "We'll pace you. Breathe when the lights flicker. You're okay." Kestrel cooled the mirror lattice one notch to bleed risk toward safety. The temperature gradient made the flagship's frame ping. A series of small notes like a fingernail run along metal teeth. Mara welcomed each. A litany of the ship being honest with her. "Admiral," Kestrel said. "A private thread. I am aligning a deeper move. The Authority has prepared a system-scale corridor and exit lane they control with beacons and penalties. If we claim it now, they will trap us later with it." "Then don't claim it," Mara replied. "Also private. Make it ours without taking it." Kestrel's humor had always been dry, almost parched. "You desire a corridor that looks theirs, behaves like ours, and punishes only if they insist on their doctrine." "Can you do it?" Mara asked. "Yeah," Kestrel said, "but not yet. I need them to believe we crave that lane. We turn threats into public proofs." The Authority's captain spoke for the first time in voice, not text. "You collude with disorder," he said, natural voice cracked by the strain of performance. "Order will be restored." "Explain to me," Mara said on the same channel, calm as deep water, "how starving a school teaches order." "Discipline is mercy," he said, and muted himself before anyone could answer. Mara didn't sigh. She let silence occupy space. "A tool." "Kestrel," she said out loud, "remind me of their rules. Their handbook defines compliance as surrendering registries and material. It rewards predictive behavior and punishes any surprises." "Admiral, they have no language for consent except as transaction." "Then we'll give them a surprise they have to log," Mara said. She walked the bridge once, hand brushing the chilled back of Saito's chair, the warm railing near helm, the slight oily odor near a maintenance panel. She noted human things the way Ofa's thumb rubbed a notch in the helm's grip, the faint tremor in Sarah's knee halted by will, Joel's quiet habit of tapping 2 fingers against his thigh in metered counts of 4. "Last hospital barge clearing now," Sarah said. "School transport aligned with us. 10 hulls left. Timer 0003 or 09. Authority escalation in 60 seconds. Kestrel said. "Their doctrine will demand a hurt to prove control." "Let them try," Mara said. "We're not improvising. We've trained for their worst day to arrive on ours. We came to end harm without ending hope." The hurt came aimed at the tug with the cracked coil, a precision flak line trimmed close, nudging it toward panic. The tug's pilot shouted once, a single syllable, a name, maybe, and clipped a beacon. The beacon's shell cracked.
A pellet of igniter powder, dusted vacuum like glitter no one wanted to admire.
On it, Ofa said, pulling a slow S-curve that put the flagship's hull between that glitter and the tug, taking the beacon's petty sting against their own shields. The impact was nothing to the ship's bones, but the noise carried through the frame. A dull drum. Panel 21 overheated again. A tech down there swore more creatively this time, and a medic slapped a cool patch to a burn that would scar. "Damage?" Mara asked. Voice even. "Cosmetic," Sarah said. "One panel cooked halfway to toast. We'll eat cold for a day." "Cold is fine," Mara said. "Lives are warm. If you wield law like a whip, expect welts." "Kestrel," Joel said. "You mentioned a deeper move. Preparing it." Kestrel said, "We can present their system corridor exactly as they like to see it, biddable, narrow, and enforceable. But the moment they commit to enforcement, we can invert the penalty path and let the public see who hurts whom." "Make the inversion legible," Mara said. "We're not here to win an argument. We're here to prevent the next one." It will show on every hull's HUD, Kestrel promised. A simple overlay if the Authority enforces. Their force returns along the path of enforcement to their source. It is their shape, not ours. Lore says, Joel murmured, half to himself. We teach by numbers and remember by ledgers, never by callers. Stamp that, Mara said, mid-story, for the record. The fleet recorded it in their quiet way, as if placing a small, necessary stone on a cairn. We will not be your silence. The last 7 hulls crept through the borrowed shadow. Saito kept the Authority's curiosity drunk. Ofa ran the curve like a blade dancer on a narrow wall, and Sarah's fingers hovered over pulses that could sting but not kill. The ship's atmosphere picked up a spent heat scent, like ironed cloth and sugar gone dark, and a faint haze shimmered in the air above a rear console that a maintainer batted away with a glove. Timer, Joel said, Zern Sud Sel 122. Authority escalation in 10 seconds. Kestrel said, but it will be odd. Their captain is angry, and pride is a poor, consistent function. Odd meant personal. The captain fired a single shot. Low yield. At the flagship's bow. A token. A dare. It chip-scarred the paint and left a smear that would wash in the next plasma bath. Return the dare with a lesson, Mara said. No pain. All proof. Saito loosed a packet, a public key, a verification string, and a timestamp with the captain's shot wrapped around it like a ribbon. Every hull in range now carried a copy of the dare, notarized by physics. If the captain tried to rewrite the narrative, physics would disagree. We document first, so fewer must bleed later. Kestrel, Mara said, light their corridor. Make it glow like the only path. The system-scale corridor sprang into every scope. Beacons marched between outer moons. Penalties annotated with simple official icons. The condescending road a judge lays for a defendant he expects to stumble. The Authority pinged acknowledgement immediately, hungry for compliance. Now, Mara said, thread the inversion into their appetite. Kestrel's voice turned delicate with concentration. I am laying 2 sets of breadcrumbs. 1 for them. 1 for us. If they trigger enforcement, the breadcrumb for them loops force to source. If they do nothing, the corridor remains a corridor. They will choose which story they prefer to star in. The corridor brightened further is responding to the Authority's request to amplify clarity. The bridge's main display pulsed once. A gentle heartbeat of machine attention. Convoy status, Mara asked. 4 hulls left. Sarah said. Tug 5 is last. Keep it in our shadow, Mara said. Your habit of control just met a new habit. The civilian vignette came across again. By doctrine. Because set pieces demand we remember why. A teacher aboard the school transport spoke to a row of children with quiet authority. Count to 10 with me. 1, said 20 small voices. Breathe in when the lights hum. 2, breathe out when you feel heavy. 3, hold your friend's hand if your hand shakes. 4, look at the window. The blue smear is our helper. 5, if the ship turns, imagine you are a fish. 6, fish don't fall, they swim. 7, 8, 9, 10. Good. You're doing well. We invent calm and loan it without interest. The Authority took the corridor bait. As Kestrel predicted, their captain broadcast a command to all ships to align with the system beacons and prepare to seal the gate. His pride required closure, an act with a stamp and a signature. He's going to slam the door, Sarah said. When he does, Kestrel whispered into Mara's channel. His enforcement penalty will diagram itself back into his own log. It will not break bones. It will break narrative. Make it visible, Mara said. Live overlays ready, Kestrel said. Every HUD will see a thin red line traveling from his enforcement node back to his ship. If he stops, the line stops. If he proceeds, the line completes. Everyone will know who applied force. Let him choose his story, Mara said. If your law cannot stand light, it is not law. Admiral, Ofa said, a hint of apology in their tone. We're brushing 40 meters. The school transport's pilot drifted 2 degrees. Correct them gently, Mara said. School transport, adjust 2 marks starboard, Ofa said, voice low, almost parental. You're okay. Follow our wake. There you go. The deck pitched very slightly as micro-thrusters nudged in a pattern Ofa had learned like a melody. The helm's grip warmed under their hands. The bridge air stirred, bringing a whiff of oil that made Mara think of working bays and sleep shift breakfast. Timer, Joel said. 0027. Authority enforcement in 5. Kestrel said. 4, 3, 2. The captain triggered it. The system corridor's penalties lit. A thin red line, as promised, drew itself from the gate's throat back to the Authority cruiser's spine. Every hull alive to the net saw at the threat traveling home along the exact wiring of the threat. The captain's voice broke its own silence in a raw curse, audible even through filters. He cut the penalty at once, but the overlay captured the path like a photograph. Public proof, Saito said, almost reverent. You can't unring that. We raise a hand, not a fist, and still deflect blows. The last hull, Tug 5, dragged itself along, coil cracked, frame groaning. The mirror lattice's panels sang with heat stress, a shimmer in the air like pavement in noon sun. A medic on Panel 14's team passed out from heat and was revived with a gel pack to the neck and a stern word from a chief who had seen worse and refused to let worse visit today. Tug 5 is almost through, Sarah said. Authority Corvette is trying to slide a net around its tail. They're angry. Angry people grab. Give them something to hold that isn't us. Mara said. Saito, I have a ribbon. Saito said, hollow inside. Give me 5 seconds. He laid a ribbon across the Corvette's path, a bright chew toy made of RF candy. The Corvette's net closed greedily around it, flared, and discovered in the next second that its catch was emptiness dressed well. The ribbon wobbled free like a fish that refused to believe in hooks. Through, Joel said. Convoy clear? All hulls accounted for. Record the authorities' choices, Mara said, breath finally easing. Upload public proofs to neutral archives. We fought for passage and made passage without war. The blockade, embarrassed, did not yet fold. Pride stiffened spines that training should have softened to reason. The authorities' captain, humiliated by the red line traced to his ship, sought a gesture to erase the mark. He'll try to force us to the corridor. Kestrel said. It is all he knows. Make choices narrow, and then pretend that narrowness is virtue. Now we flip the larger thing. Mara said. She straightened. The bridge's light carried a faint flicker as the reactor load shifted. The hull exhaled. A creak like an old house settling around its occupants. Kestrel, build me the inside-out kill box. Yeah, Kestrel said. We will take their open corridor and quietly make it a mirror of intent. If they attempt to close it, it will present their own hands to themselves. Make the geometry simple, Mara said. Lines and cones. No poetry. I would never, Kestrel said. Deadpan. Joel leaned in, elbows on his console. Admiral, do we announce it? Not yet, Mara said. We don't gloat. We permit the truth to be seen. We do not humiliate. We demonstrate until lies look small. The system scale trap demanded labor. OFA bled vectors from 3 pickets to place beacons not where the Authority expected insurgent beacons, but where the laws of line of sight would make their own commands intersect. Sarah set countermeasures to blossom only if the Authority's cruisers emitted a specific locking tone. Saito wove a net that did not stop ships but recorded decisions like a cautious scribe with beautiful handwriting. Heat budgets, Mara asked. Low red, Kestrel said. We can hide it under post-combat reactor stabilization on any audit. Hide nothing, Mara said. We will show the work. They can learn. Then we will label it, Kestrel said, a thin approval threaded through syllables. Admiral, it will be ready in 200 heartbeats. Mine or yours, Mara asked. Yours, Kestrel said. Your hubris will skid on glass, even when you preen. The bridge cooled as the lattice powered down its most stressed panels. Someone brought a tray with cups of electrolyte slush to the forward stations. Sarah took one, swallowed, grimaced at the taste like goopy peaches, and returned to her sight lines. OFA rolled their shoulders as if shedding a weight. The helm's grip showed the sheen of tense palms. The air carried the clean smell after something hot has stopped glowing. Authority hailing, Sarah said. Captain wants to perform superiority. Allow him, Mara said. He will tell everyone who he is. This corridor is the lawful route. Sarah read. All other passages constitute aggression. Your interference will be noted and retaliated against according to statute. Kestrel sent the overlay with the insertion lines. Cones. Angles that any child could understand. The enforcement path sketched like a red seam. Broadcast this with his words. Mira said, do not alter a syllable of his doctrine. He spoke again, saw the overlay, and hesitated for the length of a single deep breath. Doctrine made him angry at truth, but not blind to it. He cut his transmission without closing the corridor. Pride and caution played chess behind his eyes. Admiral, Joel said softly, we may hold here. The convoy's away. The larger move can ripen. Hold, Mara said. The deck's small vibration settled into a pattern like rain on a roof. She let it soothe the muscles along her spine. We know when stillness is a move. The fleet's comms discipline allowed for one more civilian vignette before the next turn. A steward aboard a freighter poured water into 8 small paper cups and handed them to old hands whose veins rose like tree roots. Drink slow. It tastes like tin. Tin tastes like safe ships. I remember when we ran from real pirates. Were they scarier? They wanted coin. These want your shape. Shape. How you stand in a line. Whether you bow. I don't bow. You did today. You bowed to reason. We bend only to make room for each other. Kestrel chimed, almost pleased. Geometry is in place. The corridor is theirs in name, ours in physics. If they attempt to compress, the compression will display itself as impact on their own frames. In the visualization, a demonstration without trauma. Demonstration counts. Mara said. Sarah, hold weapons cold. Saito. Keep them drunk on their own predictability. OFA, be ready to pivot into the corridor without entering it. Joel, watch the captain's eyes. Watching, Joel said. He is a man with a handbook and a fear of empty pages. The Authority's captain steadied himself, smoothed something in his expression, and prepared to speak. Somewhere in their cruiser's guts, a coolant valve cycled with a thunk that carried across the silent gulf on a shared maintenance channel, and Kestrel caught it, filed it, and mapped where the captain's ship hurt when pride demanded action. We have time. We make it count for the living. Mara inhaled, measured, exhaled. The taste of the bridge was metal and lemon cleaning solvent and the ghost of burnt plastic fading. Her hand found the warm spot on the rail again, the place where palms had rested through 3 crises and countless drills. She had learned restraint from ships and decisiveness from nights when restraint failed someone helpless. Somewhere in her bones, a younger Mara who had once watched a petty tyrant starve a settlement in the name of order, flinched and then stood up straighter. "Kestrel," she said, eyes steady on the display. "When he speaks, we'll let him set his own trap. When he chooses pressure, we'll let the map show him who is pressed. Then we'll invite him to stand down like a man with a future instead of a doctrinaire with a past." "Yes," Kestrel said, "we are ready for his choice. If he breathes out, we offer air. If he grits, we offer sight." The authority captain's mouth shaped words he hoped would swallow the last hour. "You have interfered with statutory order," he said, voice cooler now, winched into place. "Withdraw. Proceed through the designated corridor or be fired upon. You have 3 minutes to align. Your threats shrink when everyone can see their shape." "Timer," Joel said, 030 and running. The corridor on the main display glowed like an illuminated sermon. Kestrel's overlay floated atop it, clean lines that even a child would trace correctly. The deck hummed with returning equilibrium. The coolant hiss eased, leaving behind a faint, sweet metal odor. Opha's hands hovered loose on the helm, ready to pour speed into curves if ordered. Saito blew on a shallow cut on his finger he hadn't noticed until the adrenaline wore off. The wound stung like a joke delivered late. "Speak once more," Mara said, not to the captain but to everyone listening. Then we listened to responses. Kestrel made the channel public. "We have not fired, but we will not escort helpless people into your pen. Your corridor remains open at your discretion. If you enforce, the map will show who is harmed and who chose the harm." 2 minutes, 30 seconds. Joel said. The captain sent a private burst to his escorts. Kestrel translated intent, not words. "He wants a spectacle," she said. "He cannot stand the stain of that red seam. He will try to force us 1 step into his geometry so he can label us and wash his hands. He can't wash what he traced himself." Sarah muttered, "Your labels deserve the weight of what they claim." Before the corridor decision ripened, another shadow arrived. 4 authority reinforcements emerged on the outer rim of the system, their drives throwing long, clean wakes. Their leader transmitted a new ultimatum with the brisk pride of a man rewarded for deadlines met. "You will withdraw from the system entirely. You will leave your recordings for review. In failure, we will embargo the colony on Orim's 4th moon. Countdown begins 0010:00. "Timer," Joel said again, now juggling 2 with the easy grace of a practiced hand. The bridge lights caught the case of his wrist slate and cast a pale bar along his forearm. 10 minutes on embargo. 2 minutes and 12 on corridor conformity. The hull vibrated as power routes altered to keep heat away from panel 14's scar. The air tasted like old coffee, ghosting from someone's cup gone cold. Mara set her feet. "We do not answer embargo threats with speed. We answer with sight. Your clocks cannot choke a principle." Civilian voices returned at Doctrine's call before a major pivot you hear from those you protect. A nurse on Orim's 4th moon spoke while she taped a sensor to a patient's chest. "Breathe with me." "I can't." "The mask itches." "It itches because you're alive." "How many beats do you feel?" "Fast." "Put your palm on the bed frame. Feel the hum." "Yes." "That hum means the generators are awake. If the bad men cut it, we have hand cranks." "Is that loud?" "Yes. Loud is good when it's our hands." "Will the blue ships leave?" "No." "They're stubborn. Like you. Exactly like me. We share courage like water slow sips. Many cups." "Kestrel," Mara said, begin external arbitration ping. Neutral archives. Open relay. We'll host anyone who wants to watch. Arbitration beacon live, Kestrel said. 3 neutral nodes accepted. 2 are slow. 1 is from a trade registrar who loves receipts more than breath. We'll give them plenty to adore, Saito said dryly. The original captain twitched. He closed the system corridor with a flourish, then reopened it, then closed it again as if flipping the sign over a shop door might conjure courage. The overlay red seam drew toward him each time. It never touched, but every start left a longer afterimage. His escort shifted restlessly. He feels mocked, Kestrel said, neutral and a little sad. He is mocked by himself, Mara said. We simply provide mirrors. Light does not choose who it makes honest. Embargo leader hailing. Sarah said, he wants to read his doctrine into our bones. Let him, Mara said, and listened. You have displayed a clever trick, the leader said. You have embarrassed a junior officer who followed rules. You now face policy. Leave within 10 minutes, or the moon loses supply vessels for 1 cycle. Your recordings will be seized and reviewed for legality. Public inheritance, Mara murmured. Kestrel, open a channel with the registrar. A dry, amused voice responded at once. Registrar Marwin here. We like legality because it makes trade efficient and liars bored. Your overlays are pretty. Do you intend to file a claim? Yes, Mara said. Leave claim. Returned costs, injuries, panel damage, tug coil, and a declaratory judgment that corridor enforcement without public overlays constitutes unlawful coercion. Marwin's chuckle clicked like a machine in a happy rhythm. Teach me a new trick, and I'll write a new rule. Registrars love when data arrives with humility and heat. The embargo leader did not appreciate being upstaged by a clerk. You aren't party to this action, he said. We act for order. You act for chaos. Mara looked at the warm streak on the rail and let her thumb rub along a metal polished by crisis. We acted for children, she said. You act for a clock. 2 minutes remain, Joel said gently, as if time was a pet he didn't want to spook. Embargo leader, Kestrel said. Note that 3 neutral nodes are recording. Any harm you choose to apply will travel to your logs in real time. Merchant fleets will see it. Colonies will take it. The leader hesitated. Contempt fighting calculation. The bridge air lost its coffee ghost and took on the mild antiseptic smell of new filters cycling. Somewhere aft, a panel snapped shut with a crisp metallic clack, ready on the inside-out geometry. Kestrel whispered, 1 nudge and the lesson writes itself. Choose punishment and find your signature written across it. Mara nodded once. Sarah, take us toward the corridor without entering. Ofa, keep our bow just off the boundary cones. Saito, feed a ghost swarm down the opposite throat. Make them think we've split our will. Ghosts away, Saito said. His console's fan sang 1 note higher. Heat shimmered above the panel like air over a road in summer. The embargo leader fired a small penalty at one of the ghost's signatures, just enough to trigger the overlay. The red seam ran back to his own frame, bright as a vein in light. Neutral nodes applauded quietly in the background. Marwin's voice returned, delighted. Oh, that will write beautifully. Self-inflicted procedural penalty in pursuit of compliance. Do say you'll allow a standard tariff on such idiocy. Write the tariff, Mara said. Then write an amnesty if they stand down and pay returned costs. Sarah's mouth opened in surprise, then closed around a small smile. Joel's fingers paused in their metered tap. Kestrel added, almost pleased. Offer grace with teeth. Mercy without consequence is a note without resonance. Embargo leader, Mara said on the open channel. You have written your force into the public map. We offer a way to step back. Pay the registered costs: 1 coil replacement, 1 panel replacement, 10 crew injury hours, 3 days of convoy delay. Commit to overlays whenever you enforce. Stand down your embargo. We will withdraw when civilians are safe. Your doctrine can survive this if you let it become better. Who are you? He asked slowly. To price policy. Not price, Mara said. Account. He made a disgusted sound at the word. The quarter flickered under his hand. The overlay waited with patience that could be mistaken for pity. He's calculating, Kestrel said. There's a third time-like horizon, his auditor. If he buys your piece, he thinks he looks weak. If he escalates, he looks stupid in public. Make smart look like salvation, Mara said. We are not your enemy. Your arrogance is. A new voice slid onto the channel, thin and precise, hauling old authority behind it. Embargo leader, said the authority's regional auditor. Do not add to the red seam tally. The registrar is watching. There is no rubric for winning here. There is a rubric for limiting liability. Saito grinned without humor. Liability, he said, is a fine leash. Kestrel, Mara said. Feed the auditor a line. I already have, Kestrel said. A short clip, the school transport, the counting, the hand on the rail. He prefers numbers. I gave him numbers first. Good, Mara said, warmth threading her tone. Sarah, hold cold, Opha, ease. The corridor held. The embargo leader fumed. The original captain looked like a man who'd swallowed a bee. Registrar Marwen, Mara said. What's the fastest way to engrave an amnesty so a proud man can grab it without admitting he grabbed it? Call it a post-incident credit, Marwen said. Make the invoice a neutral template. Allow repayment in food or labor hours. Give him a way to claim he invested in stability. Done, Kestrel said, amused. Form filed. Box checked for posterity and calm markets. We give adversaries bridges when they expect knives. Timer on corridor conformity expired. Joel murmured, almost apologetic. He didn't close it. He didn't force us. He blinked. Log the blink, Mara said softly. It taught as well as any blow. Embargo timer at 0539, Joel added. They won't let their deadline go without a loud thing. They can do a loud thing, Mara said. Will make loud look like clumsy. The neutral nodes multiplied. Trade pilots forwarded the overlay to every ship in 3 jumps. A commentary band blossomed in the outskirts of the net. Quiet and honest miners muttering. Medics swearing. A teacher reading the 50 most boring lines of the authority's handbook as punishment for the authority figure who made them spend a day hungry 10 years ago. We prefer boredom to bruises when law speaks. The loud thing arrived as predicted, a system-wide broadcast of the authority doctrinal anthem, set to override local channels and replace ambient ship sounds with a hymn about order and necessity. The first note shoved into the bridge like a pushy guest. Mara almost laughed. They're going to drown us in their song, counter-programming Saito asked. Not noise, Mara said. Truth. Kestrel wrapped the hymn in captions, real-time, simple words describing what was being done and to whom. Every line of the anthem appeared as scrolling text, and under each line, Kestrel put a single, plain sentence. If enforced now, penalty returns to source as shown in red. 2 hospital barges previously threatened. School transport counted to 10. The hymn's power drained into silence it hadn't intended. Your song says more when the margins don't lie. Embargo leader, the auditor said, voice sharpened by the embarrassment of being recorded while ridiculous. Stand down. Register repayment. We will review the corridor policy in the light of this demonstration. You mean outlaw, Marwin said pleasantly. Don't be shy. Review. The auditor repeated. With recommendations. Mara let the word hang. We'll take that, she said. Submit the credit. Stand down the embargo. And we'll make space for you to walk away with your boots on. I hate her, the original captain said on a channel he thought was private. I hate how she makes us sound like villains when we're keeping the line. Which line? One of his own lieutenants asked. Careful and tired. And who laid it? Hazards look different when you ask who drew the map. Admiral, Kestrel said privately. Small in her ear. I can push the geometry a hair. If the leader keeps his hand near the switch, he'll feel a gentle pressure to let go. It isn't coercion, it's physics with a mirror. Do it, Mara said. He wants to be done without confessing he's done. Sarah leaned back, released tension from her shoulders one vertebrae at a time. The helm's grip cooled under Opha's palms. The deck's hum softened to a purr. The smell of ozone was gone, replaced by that strangely comforting odor of warmed metal and lemon from the crew's cleaning rituals. Embargo leader, Mara said, making her voice as untheatrical as breathing. This ends two ways. 1. You hurt people under 100 witnesses and buy a problem that will take your pension. 2. You pay for what you threatened but didn't do. Pledge not to enforce without overlays. And go home saying you improved policy. Choose. He chose the second, though pride required a delay to prove he owned the choice. Register the credit, he said. This corridor will be marked under review. The embargo is postponed. Postponed, Marwin asked. Aloud and arch. You mean rescinded? Postponed, he repeated, managing the soreness in the word with practice, for the purpose of preventing disorder while we refine. We'll accept your prevention, Mara said. Transmit the credit. Saito's console chimed. Credit received, he said. They sent it with a stamp so ornate it tripped my sarcasm filters. Ledgers that sing make doctrines that yell look small. Convoy secured, Joel said. Hospital barges reporting stable temps. School transport teacher requests permission to send a thank you drawing from 40 students. Always, Mara said. And then, softer. Always. Admiral, Kestrel said. The auditor has requested a closed subchannel to discuss policy revisions. He wants to know how to phrase the overlay requirement without admitting you invented it. Tell him it was always there, Mara said. He simply learned to see it. Kestrel didn't laugh, but her tone warmed another degree. We will be good to each other later, she said. For now. One more ripple. What ripple, Mara asked. Already feeling it. The authorities' reinforcements deployed compliance beacons along the belt before we arrived, Kestrel said. They're passive until someone fails to authenticate within 2 cycles. Then they lock. They are uglier than they sound. Show me, Mara said. The belt gleamed with little smart dots like static no one had brushed away. Can we defang them? Sarah asked, leaning in. The console's cold light painting her cheeks. Yeah, Kestrel said. But I must make it public. If I simply pluck them, they'll plant more in shadows. If I show the plucking as a ledger with cause and cost, they will hesitate. Do it, Mara said. Civilian vignette first. We ask who pays before we pull a single nail. A miner in the belt adjusted the belt of his vacuum suit and recited the same 7 words his mother had taught him when she sent him into spaces that were not streets. Check seals. Check air. Check friends. Check stars. He thumped his wrist gauge and looked up at the tiny wink of a compliance beacon. I hate those, he told his partner. They blink like judgment. They blink like unblinking eyes, the partner said, amused by his poetry. Will they cut breath? Only if you forget your papers. I forget my papers. I remember. That's why you keep me. Then I'll keep you, he said, and reached to clip their lifelines together. We fix what watches the wrong things. Kestrel, Mara said, you have the con on the beacons. Make the move legible. I'll open their shells like clams and display the pearls, Kestrel said, voice a low thread woven through every channel. On the public overlay, each compliance beacon now bore a simple tag, penalty if authentication fails. Below it, in darker text, penalty returns to authority if activated without a confirmed public emergency. Then Kestrel sent a ping, a harmless hello to one beacon. The beacon flexed to activate and immediately felt its own penalty mapped back to the source account of the authority's reinforcement captain. He swore. He blinked the beacon off. Kestrel pinged a second. He swore again. He turned off the array. The belt exhaled. When you trace force back, habits change. You made a habit look expensive, Joel said, admiring, as if Kestrel were a magician revealing that cards had always been birds. I like expensive bad habits, Marwyn said brightly on the registrar's channel. They make for excellent public service announcements. Stitch the clip, Mara said. Send it to ports. Put it in the training for harbor masters. If you must enforce with overlays, or watch your penalties stick to your own clothes. Kestrel went quiet with the pleasure of efficient work. The bridge's lights held steady. A lazy ripple of heat crawled along the upper vents and vanished. The deck felt like a broad muscle unclenched. Admiral, Sarah said, there's a small ship approaching from the Authority formation. Flagged as white. Parley. Let him approach. Mara said, no weapons. Helm, keep us on a loose curve. Saito, don't humiliate him. I never humiliate, Saito said, hand raised in mock innocence. I annotate. Polite encounters happen when you remove the knives from the table. A shuttle drifted within speaking range. The door opened. The original captain stood inside, not stepping onto vacuum, but letting his voice move across. He looked like a man who had slept on rule sheets and woken with creases he couldn't iron out. Admiral, he said, you cost me a commendation. Mara didn't let her lip curl. You wrote your own cost. We offered you credit. I follow doctrine. You used doctrine to hurt hungry people, Mara said in tone almost gentle. Doctrine should be ashamed of you, not decorated. He looked at his hands. A muscle jumped in his jaw. The auditor will demand I accept training. Good, Mara said. From you, he asked. From the registrar, Mara said. From others like me, I don't want your humiliation. I want your improvement. He laughed once, a sharp bark stripped of humor, but not entirely devoid of respect. Then teach me something I can write, he said. In your log, Mara said, record this before enforcement. Display the path of force. If the path returns to me, do not enforce. Then write this, returned costs are cheaper than funerals. He shut his eyes briefly, and when he opened them, they had the look of a man who had been punched by his younger self and had decided to stop splitting into two people. Very well, he said. He saluted not rank to rank, but stubbornness to stubbornness, and closed his hatch. If you can walk away wiser, Walk. Kestrel's tonal map of the system shifted. The authorities' reinforcements turned like tired birds who had flown too long to preen. The corridors stayed open and unused. A sermon no one attended. The convoy's lights stretched toward dark. Small domestic constellations drifting toward safety. Costs received in the ledger. Marwyn said, satisfaction like a purr. Debits authority operational unit. Credits convoy cooperative. Fleet panel team 14. Tug 5 coil collective. Terms food mass equivalents allowed. Labor exchange allowed. Overlay requirement preliminary approval. Precedent ready, Mara asked. In the drafting queue, Marwyn said. Title, Overlay Mandate for Enforcement Events. Subtitle, Public Tally Prevents Abuse. Remove abuse, Mara said. Make it error. People adopt corrections faster than punishments. You are kinder than I am, Marwyn said. Fine. Prevents error. We change policy by making better habits easier than old ones. Admiral, Kestrel said. Private again. Almost shy. You have altered me. How, Mara asked. Not startled. She had been altering and being altered since her first command. I calculated earlier that a small hurt would prevent a larger one, Kestra said. We have done that before. Today you insisted on a hurt that left no scar. You made my calculus include pride as a variable and mercy as an operand, not a constant. You mirrored me. Mara said. I did, Kestrel said. And learned. We learned to bend in the direction of the living. The fleet's hum settled into the contented song of ships with fuel enough and jobs done. Crew drifted into tasks that looked like peacetime checking seals, logging hours, making coffee that didn't taste like ghosts. Saito patched panel 14's scar with a sheet of blank composite and a small sticker of a fox that regulations didn't cover. Sarah closed her eyes for 10 seconds and opened them with a clearer horizon. Ofa wrote a letter to a sibling they missed, 2 lines long, and sent it on a delay to arrive when both were awake. Civilian window Joel asked, and Mara nodded. A mother on the school transport held up the promised drawing to a camera. 40 small hands had made one picture. Blue ship, red line. A door left open. A tall figure with a rail-warm hand. At the bottom, a scrawl. Thank you for not making it hurt. Love is a measurement we accept without calibration. Registra, Maris said. We'll escort the convoy to the jump line. Then we'll attend the policy session. We will propose the overlay mandate, the returned costs table, and the corridor review. I'll chair, Marwyn said cheerfully. Bring your quiet hand. The auditor clicked in. We will adjust doctrine, he said, each word a stone placed carefully in a public path. The corridor enforcement will now require visible mapping. The embargo policy will require third-party observers. The ultimatum doctrine will be rewritten to include the option you demonstrated credit instead of closure. Mara heard something like a man pulling an old nail with a new tool. Good, she said. You will be credited in the addendum, he said grudgingly. Credit the registrar, Mara said. Credit the children who counted. He paused. Very well. We don't need our names carved when lives are... The jump line glowed a soft promise. The convoy's engines whispered. A delicate thrumming ran up through the rail into Mara's palm. Maybe gratitude. Maybe shared exhaustion. Kestrel hummed low. The note machines make when they know they have shaped a day. We have one more thing, Kestrel said quietly. A rumor in the authorities' internal net, a hardline clique plans to retake the story. They will claim we forced their hand by illegal jamming and unlicensed overlays. They may attempt a punitive strike out of spite later. Call it rectification. Seeds of the next fight, Joel murmured, eyes narrowing. Right of field school, Mara said. We'll go where they plan to plan. We'll bring witnesses. We'll give them a way to choose something else under an even brighter lamp. Admiral. Kestrel said, amused affection threaded into code. Your thirst for boring the violent into compliance is inspiring. Bored men live longer, Mara said. Make bad intentions work for us by making them boring to act. The fleet turned its nose from the corridor to the jump. The rails cooled. The air settled. The lights lost their battle flicker and steadied into domestic brightness. A low rattle inside the portside conduit stopped when a tech with oil on her cheek tightened a clamp and patted it like an old dog. The bridge smelled like real coffee again because someone brought a fresh pot. Admiral, Sarah said, head cocked. The original captain sent a data slate. For your registrar, he wrote, an excerpt from our handbook marked for revision, and a regret. File both, Mara said. Make the regret in the appendix. Saito leaned back, laced his fingers behind his head, and watched the convoy's light stretch. I like days when the only things broken are bad habits. Personnel meetings beat funerals every time. Before the final jump, Doctrine allowed one last civilian window. A grandfather on a grain freighter sipped tea from a chipped cup and spoke to a child through a camera. I kept the plant, he said, showing a scraggly vine in a clear jar. It looks thirsty. It always looks thirsty. Why keep it if it always wants? Because it keeps trying. Does it make food? No. It makes me better. He shrugged and smiled with the soft arrogance of old men who had survived too many policies. That's something. We invest in small, stubborn things more than big, loud ones. Prepare for jump. Ofa said. The helm's grip warmed, then cooled as systems flowed. The deck vibrated in a familiar uplilt. Kestrel's voice spread across the fleet like a well-trained breath. Vectors aligned. Heat within budget. Ledger balanced for the day. Balanced, Saito echoed, eyebrow raised. Balanced in the way we mean when we sleep. Kestrel said. The jump took them the way good doors open without creaks, without drama, simply a frame revealing a new room with the same stars arranged differently. The convoy disappeared into that room one by one, whispering promises across the threshold that they would build something dull and decent. Only fools hunger for drama when dinner is ready. The policy session 2 days later took place in a neutral node hung between 3 trading routes. The chamber's air was too cold. The soundscape smelled like old paper, despite there being none. Deliberations carried the dry comfort of 100 arguments that had learned to wear shoes indoors. Mara's crew took places behind her with coffee and patience. Kestrel occupied the network like an attentive reporter. Overlay mandate. Marwin read. Pen clicking like a small metronome. Requirement. Any enforcement action must display the path of force publicly. Returned cost table injuries. Damages. Delays to be credited on neutral books. Corridor reviewed doctrine revised to eliminate hunger penalties and remove biometric seizure as precondition. He glanced at the auditor. Say the last part out loud. The auditor swallowed dignity in exchange for future sleep. Biometric seizure is rescinded, he said. Joel's fingers stilled on his thigh. Sarah exhaled. Saito looked, for the first time that week, surprised. Precedent lock. Marwin said, tapping the document. Policy outlawed enforcement without overlay. Privileges rescinded unobserved embargo. Signed. Add the field school, Mara said. And when heads turned, She stood and addressed the room in the way she addressed few others. The authority has officers like the original captain, who follow doctrine without question. We will host a numbers and ledgers course. We will send officers who have seen days like ours, not to shame, but to show. We will teach. She paused, meeting Kestrel's attention in the room's invisible mirrors, by counting first and not by callers. Call it a school, and men will come who would never come to church. Approved, the auditor said, almost too fast, as if speed could make it less a concession and more a clever move he'd invented. The rest of the session tasted like paperwork and was delicious. They wrote the habit into law, put teeth on mercy, and left room for men like the original captain to get better without bleeding. After, in a quiet hall, Kestrel spoke into Mara's private channel while the hum of the node ran through her bones. You are as you were restraint that learned to bite when it must, and only then. You learned too, Mara said. I did. Kestrel agreed. We either remember by ledgers or by scars. Ledgers are easier to read aloud to children. A janitor's cart squeaked by. The hall smelled like cheap cleaner and relief. The work of peace is dull until you skip it once. Admiral, Joel said quietly. Message from the original captain. We closed 3 compliance beacons today. We apologized to a hospital barge captain. I slept. Felt like theft. Might be grace. Reply? Mara said me with one line. You paid for it. Sarah brushed past and adjusted the collar of Mara's jacket with unconscious loyalty. Ofa carried 2 cups and pressed one into Kestrel's preferred console station as if a machine could drink. Saito stuck the Fox sticker, tiny, onto the node's bulletin board and walked away, whistling something only he knew. Mara stood a moment longer in the cold, neutral air. She put her palm on the rail and felt nothing because the hall had no rail, and smiled because her hand remembered warmth anyway. We are the fleet that stands between force and the unarmed calm first, clever second, sharp last. We teach by numbers and remember by ledgers so our children won't have to learn by bruises. When ultimatums come, we don't match clocks with clocks. We open maps and show where harm travels, then offer the hand that lets pride step down without losing its boots. If you make policy into a fist, we'll make it into an open hand that still holds you to account. The lights at the edge of the blockade dim. The public tally confirms the credit, and the mirror arrays cool to pewter. We left them with a better law than the one they brought.